Why me? Why do I keep losing my lovers? Why am I cursed? This is too much for me to bear.
They said beauty was a gift, but hers came wrapped in death. Every man who ever loved her ended up buried, not by her hands, but by her curse. She never asked for it. She never wanted it. But when your reflection can kill desire itself, love becomes a dangerous thing. Her name was Amara. And in a city that never slept, a city built on secrets, half-light, and whispers, Amara walked the streets at midnight. She was unseen, yet unforgettable. A shadow among neon lights. Her scent lingered where she had passed, like smoke that refused to die. They called her many names: witch, goddess, seductress, demon. But none of them knew the truth, that her beauty wasn't power, it was punishment. There was something about Hollow Street, that crooked corner of the city, that always felt like twilight, even at noon. It was where the unwanted came to forget their faces, and where ghosts came to remember theirs. Amara lived in a small flat above an antique shop, a forgotten space that smelled of dust, wood, and history. The walls carried whispers of people long gone. The only thing alive in that room was her reflection, staring back from a cracked mirror she kept covered most days. When she wasn't working, she sat by the window, watching the city breathe. The night lights shimmered against her skin, painting her like art that shouldn't exist. She would sit there, motionless, her eyes deep and unreadable. Sometimes, when she blinked, a faint shimmer passed through them, like gold dust in water. And every time she caught that glow, she whispered quietly, "Stay asleep." Because she knew what it meant when that glow awakened. Her only companion was Mr. Darius, the old blind man who owned the antique shop downstairs. He had gone blind years ago, but somehow, he seemed to see more than most. He used to tell her, "Child, the world fears what it cannot understand. But beauty like yours, it doesn't belong to this world." One day, as she arranged some glass figurines in the shop, she asked softly, "Do you think I'm cursed, Mr. Darius?" The old man tilted his head toward her voice and smiled sadly. "My dear, everyone is cursed with something. But yours just happens to shine too bright. And bright things burn." At night, the men came. They didn't mean to, but something about her drew them, like moths circling a quiet flame. Strangers who passed her window would stop and stare, unable to look away. Some would whisper her name without knowing how they learned it. And by morning, one of them would be gone. No wounds. No struggle. Their hearts stopped as if they had seen something their souls couldn't handle. Amara stopped counting after the 12th. She no longer cried. Tears didn't bring them back. And prayers. She had prayed once, years ago, and it was prayer that brought the curse in the first place. She hadn't always been this way. Long before the city, before Hollow Street, she had been a village girl, barefoot, free, and innocent. Her mother, a herbalist. Her father, a priest who believed faith could tame anything, even the dark. But there was a night, one she never forgot. The moon had turned red that evening, and a stranger had come to their hut seeking shelter. He was charming, with eyes that glowed faintly, and a voice that tasted like honey and thunder. He called himself Obidi, a wanderer, a healer. He promised her father he would repay their kindness. He promised Amara he could make her beauty eternal. She was young, foolish, curious. When he reached for her hand that night and whispered words older than language, she felt something awaken inside her, something warm, beautiful, dangerous. By morning, he was gone. And when she looked into the mirror, her reflection smiled before she did. The villagers soon noticed the change. Men began to fight over her, to fall sick, to die. And when the priest, her father, tried to bless her, his rosary burned to ash in his hands. That was when the whispers began. That was when they called her age. Witch. And that was the night she ran, barefoot, terrified, cursed. Years passed. The world changed. But her curse did not. In the city, she learned to hide her light. She wore black always, covered her face when she could, never stayed too long in one place. But destiny doesn't forget. One rainy evening, a man entered the antique shop. He was tall, with quiet eyes and a kind smile, the kind that made you feel seen, even in the dark. His name was Ezekiel, a journalist chasing stories about things people refused to believe. He came looking for myths, and found Amara instead. At first, she avoided him. She knew that look, curiosity mixed with fascination. But Ezekiel wasn't like the others. He didn't chase her beauty. He wanted her story. "Why do you hide from mirrors?" he asked one day. Amara smiled faintly. "Because sometimes, the mirror hides from me." He didn't understand, but he didn't push. He kept visiting, bringing her coffee, laughter, quiet conversation. And for the first time in years, Amara felt human. But curses are jealous things. It began subtly. Her reflection lingered a second too long. Lights flickered when she laughed. And once, when Ezekiel touched her hand, a faint scar burned into his palm, the shape of a crescent moon. That night, she dreamt of Obidi again, the warlock who cursed her. His voice filled her head like smoke. "You cannot love without death," he whispered. "Break the chain, or burn with him." She woke up screaming. Ezekiel was at her door moments later, rain dripping from his hair. She told him to leave, to forget her, to never come back. But he refused. "You don't scare me," he said softly. "Whatever you're running from, let me face it with you." She wanted to believe him. She wanted to be saved. But she knew, the moment he loved her, truly loved her, the curse would claim him. That night, the rain fell heavier than ever before. And the city, Hollow Street especially, seemed to hum with something alive. Amara felt it. The curse pulsing in her veins. The warlock's laughter echoing in her chest. In the mirror, her reflection shifted again, eyes glowing gold, lips curving into a cruel smile. "You can't hide forever," it said. Amara smashed the mirror, but the shards whispered back, "Love is your undoing." Then, lightning struck, and the city went dark. The thunder roared like a hungry beast over Hollow Street. Windows trembled, glass rattled, and every light in the city went out. Only one glow remained, Amara's. Her body pulsed with an amber fire that wasn't fire at all, it was memory. Every name, every face of the men who had died loving her flashed through her mind, 12, 13, maybe more, all whispering the same word, "Free us." She staggered back, clutching her chest. The air thickened. Dust rose from the floorboards as if gravity itself was breaking. And through the storm, a shadow walked toward her door. Ezekiel. He was drenched, breathing hard, eyes wide with fear and worry. When he saw her, he froze. Her skin shimmered like molten gold, her hair lifted as if underwater. And behind her, in the broken shards of the mirror, another figure stared back, the warlock, Obidi. Amara's voice came out layered, half hers, half his. "I told you not to come." Ezekiel stepped forward. "I don't care. Whatever this is, you're not alone." But he was wrong. The curse had waited too long, buried too deep. Now it wanted to leave. Obidi's reflection smiled wider, whispering through her lips. "Love is the door, and blood is the key." Before she could speak, the glass exploded outward, slicing through the air. Ezekiel threw himself in front of her, his arm bleeding, eyes fierce. And for the first time in centuries, the curse hesitated. The old blind man, Mr. Darius, was already at the foot of the stairs, chanting quietly. He couldn't see, but he felt the darkness. He muttered in Yoruba, old words that smelled of salt and ash, "If beauty be curse, let truth be the mirror." The warlock screamed through Amara's mouth, a voice that split the walls. The antiques shook, clocks fell, candles died. And then, silence. Amara collapsed. Ezekiel caught her before she hit the ground. Her eyes flickered between gold and brown, like a candle fighting to live. "Ezekiel," she whispered, "it's not me. It's him." He held her tighter. "Then let's finish him." Her laugh was bitter, trembling. "You can't kill what's already inside me." He looked around. The shards of the mirror glowed faintly, forming a circle on the floor. Each shard reflected a different version of Amara, smiling, crying, burning. "What if," he began slowly, "what if you turn it? Use what he gave you against him?" Amara blinked. For the first time, the curse inside her paused, listening. Outside, the rain turned red again, but thicker this time, almost like blood. The city screamed in panic. Phones died, streetlights burst, the cathedral bell tolled by itself. Inside the shop, Amara stood up. Her eyes stopped flickering. They burned steady now, molten, divine. "Obidi," she said, voice steady and cold, "you wanted a vessel. You got one. But you forgot one thing." The reflection leaned forward, grinning. "What's that, my love?" Amara smiled faintly. "A vessel can overflow." She reached toward the nearest shard of glass and pressed it against her chest. Instead of bleeding, her body absorbed the mirror. One by one, the other shards floated up, melting into her skin until her whole body shone like liquid gold. Obidi screamed. The curse howled. But Amara finally stood tall. "Ezekiel," she said softly, "if I don't make it." He shook his head. "No. You're going to end this." She smiled sadly. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm just going to become something else." The storm outside cracked open, lightning so bright it painted the whole city white. And in that flash, Amara stepped forward, raising her hand toward the broken window. "Obidi," she called into the thunder, "I return your gift." A wave of golden light burst from her body, spilling through the street, touching every shadow, every dark corner where curses hid. People dropped to their knees, blinded by the radiance. The air smelled of rain and burning incense. For a moment, time itself seemed to stop. When it moved again, Obidi's voice was gone. His shadow burned into the wall, a black smear that whispered once and vanished. And Amara fell. Ezekiel caught her again, trembling. Her eyes were closed, her pulse faint. But she was smiling. Hours later, the city stirred. Dawn broke red and gold, washing over Hollow Street like a quiet apology. The rain had stopped, the air felt lighter. Ezekiel sat beside her still body, his hand wrapped around hers. When Mr. Darius came upstairs, he said nothing. He simply bowed his head. But then, just as the sun rose high enough to kiss her face, Amara's fingers twitched. A soft breath escaped her lips. She opened her eyes, and they were no longer gold. They were black, deep and endless. Ezekiel gasped. "Amara." She smiled, faint, dangerous, beautiful. "Not Amara," she said softly. "Not anymore." He stepped back, but she reached out, touched his face gently. "Don't be afraid. I'm free now. But freedom has a cost." Outside, the city bells rang again, though no one touched them. Every mirror in Hollow Street cracked at once. She stood up slowly, her hair catching the morning light. There was no pain, no curse, only power. "I banned his name," she whispered, "but his magic lives in me now. And this time, I decide who lives or dies." She turned toward the window. The people below, oblivious to what had happened, hurried to walk, laughed, lived. And somewhere among them, a woman with black eyes smiled at their ignorance. Her beauty was no longer a curse. It was a warning.